working on my Pokemon catch.
This is how you're gonna feed the family from now on?
I'm gonna be a Pokemon YouTuber. My life now is Pokemon.
So I'm actually getting more things done, putting more things in the game. For the final game, there were still some elements and some interactions missing. Being able to push the kid around, push it out of the way, or if you're too forceful, the kid just falls to the ground. That took a bit of time to get into the game, and it's still a bit buggy, but it's in there now. And then the other big thing that was missing is basically what we called for a while karma, which is like a status on the kid that needs to be managed throughout the game. It's the kid's mood as you are doing certain actions. So if you keep pulling the kid to the ground and pulling it through the snow, smacks into bushes and trees, this value just goes lower and lower. And that eventually has an effect on the game, which then now adds a couple more interactions into the game, where if you just keep ramming yourself against the kid and basically abusing the child, that is going to be followed up by a reaction of the kid just starting to cry. So maybe don't do that.
I'm checking my script that I wrote down. Okay, well, this week I'm working on making overall things a little bit more beautiful. We want to tweak the final look of the real-time output rendering, whatever it's called. We want to tweak that slightly to look a little bit more timey. So I made a setup that basically takes a lookup table, and we use the Blender compositor to apply some color tweaking on top of that. And then we export that into an image that can be read by Godot. So whenever we want to do a tweak, we just load a screenshot from Godot into Blender, do the color tweaks, and then export that image. And hopefully that's gonna show up in Godot as well. I believe in the last production log I talked about how I made a fence and it now works, and there will be a puzzle around. So now it's about what goes in that area behind the fence, because we don't only want to hide an item there, but we also want to make that a little bit more interesting, because we want people to get a reward for solving that puzzle. So I worked on a little shed that Vivian made some concept art for. The item is going to be hidden in there. Then we'll just make that area around it a little bit nicer. I also worked on making the pond a little bit better, because it's still a little bit experimental how we work with reflections and that kind of stuff.
So this week I continue on the clearing, which is the southern part of the map. I'm trying to find a good balance between having fun, slaloming around trees and bushes and whatnot, and really have to playtest this part. Running around in this part is like kind of a maze. It's shaping up quite nicely. It's not like set dressing, it's really just duplicating the same asset and figuring out what works and what doesn't.
I've been working this week on the intro animation. It's a cinematic that slowly turns into interactive gameplay. Together with Pablo, we are setting up the files and starting to block out the animation for both characters.
Oh fucking hell, man, you put the camera so close. I cannot move. I need my space. I'm an artist. Oh shit. So there is like a first pass already of the intro with the kid and the snowman, cleaning up some stuff that it was broken. The sleeping, I started to do some initial posing that Rick later took over, and I think that's it. Is it good enough for you? Is it good enough for you? The people in the internet?
I've been, the singularity thing, and then, wait, give me 1 sec. Wait, 1 sec.
The image and the geonode.
Okay, I'm glad you're telling me what I did this week, because I forgot.
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much wrapped up the pipeline topics. The only thing left now is the geometry nodes instancing export, which I'm still waiting on getting a pull request merge that Jack has been working on to give us an API to get better insight of the data that geometry nodes outputs, so we can pack it all into the export data that Godot uses. Yeah, that's the only thing left. So I've jumped onto some more of the game development. One thing I did yesterday was adding the emote bubble that's on the top of Pinda to indicate the emotional state, because the animations alone aren't necessarily giving enough insight on that, because they're a bit more subtle, especially sometimes when the character is facing away. So we wanted to have some speech bubbles or thought bubbles of the character that just indicate distress or whatever state they're in. Vivian gave me some initial sketches for that, and Julian already hooked up calling to that emote bubble whenever there's an event happening to put it into the right state, and that's already working. So now I'm going to some other things, improving the movement logic and whatever tasks basically that Julian didn't have time for yet. Just make it overall a more round and smooth experience, and also then adding some effects to give more feedback over what's currently going on and also make it just visually nicer.
Ah, yes, okay. Okay, so what I've been doing this week, it's more rigging tweaks, rigging some more props, and I've moved on a little bit to Singularity, which is the next project after this one, to take a previous version of the character that is still being designed and doing a complete previous rig. And it's just to test things out, to figure out what is going to be needed down the line as the character is being designed.
Next to that, I've been talking to a bunch of people in the industry regarding facial rigging. I've been prototyping more on that, wrote a few tools for improving the workflow, hitting my head against the wall because rigging can be painful.
You know what Rick was asking me a couple of days ago? He was asking me about like my feelings about rigging. I think in many ways it's a little bit like making the bottom half of a house of cards. So you're not doing the really fun, sexy part. You're doing kind of the bottom part, but if you mess it up, it messes it up for everybody. You get all the blame.
So this week my main task was the outro, but I've only worked on it today and it's Friday because I also worked on the emotes that we now have in the game. So I just quickly made like a first pass of designs on the ones that we could think of for Pinda. And now I also tried animating one of them so we can also test what that would look like if they aren't just static images hovering above the child. I made some birds that were a stretch goal, but now they are already modeled and they look really nice. And people, I think, are rooting for having birds in the game. I made those in real life and then took them apart, scanned them, then put them back together.
I saw them and I had to make them immediately because they're so super cute. So I modeled the birds. I basically just took the texture, cut it out, then folded the birds back together in Blender.
So yeah, they're gonna hit the rigging department soon. I think we always wanted to have some form of critters, but we always knew it was gonna be a stretch goal. You'll see, like, I don't know. Maybe they're not gonna end up in the game. I don't want to promise. Yeah.
No! Then there's also the camera. Pinda's gonna have a camera that he takes the final shot with, and we had some concept art for that, so I thought, okay, well, we might want to animate that scene, so we need a prop. I made the prop. It's there. Not the final pass, of course, but it will hopefully end up in the game as well.
Yeah, I think it's exactly 1 week from now. Next Thursday we're going to be at the Playgrounds, the art department event in Eindhoven. It's a pretty popular event for creatives to meet up, talk about digital art basically. We were invited basically to give presentations there, so Pablo and me are going to go... There he is. Right in the picture. So Pablo and me are going to give a presentation there on Thursday. Well, one each. He's going to talk about Cowboy, and I'm going to talk about the procedural oil painting stuff that I also talked about at the Blender conference for Gold. And then the day after we have a booth there also to showcase some stuff. So I got to make the presentation for that now, basically.
So I will focus a bit more of my time on improving the code, fixing bugs, but also generally a bit more code quality. I will have a code review today from one of the Blender developers. I'm a bit nervous about it because this is not something that usually happens for me. And I am not a professional developer. I am doing things fast and loose and a bit stupid. So getting someone who I have seen their code. I know how it looks like. I know how well organized and beautiful it is and functional. So in comparison, here's like this little turd that I've made and this endless script that is doing a bunch of things. And I'm like, I know it doesn't look good, but maybe there's some pointers in there. And then everything will be a bit less error prone. That's my hope.